Remember that line from A League of Their Own? There's no crying in baseball. Well, newsflash, there is crying in yoga, and it's perfectly okay. Today we're talking about what's really going on when emotions sneak up on the mat, why it happens, and how to handle it, whether you're teaching or practicing. So grab a hanky and let's get started. Welcome to the Youthful Older Yogi podcast. I'm MJ Waddell, your host and founder of Share Yoga. I've been teaching, practicing, and loving yoga for nearly 30 years. I'm an advocate of movement, creativity, and staying healthy in mind and body after 50. It's never too late to start, and there's a lot of healthy years ahead. So let's start now. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Youthful Older Yogi. I'm MJ Waddell, the creator and founder of Share Yoga, and your host for this podcast. I've entitled this episode, When Yoga Brings You to Tears. So we're getting towards the end of the year. It's November. I'm filming this November 16th, and it's a crazy busy time and can be emotional time for a lot of us. And I was starting to think about emotions and how they can come up in yoga. So there's a little story when I went to yoga class. I know it was a Bikram class. This is years ago. And I think it was my first or second time trying Bikram. I'd already had an established practice. And it wasn't exactly my favorite. But anyway, regardless of that, after class, I went with a couple friends, and she told me that every time that she gets into pigeon pose, she starts to cry. Tears every single time. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's really unusual, because at that time in my life, I was in my 30s, and yoga made me feel amazing and energized and open and strong and never sad. Never, ever. So later, I started to understand when you're in a pose for an extended period of time, especially one that's as deep and can be intense as pigeon pose, things can surface. There's tension in the hips and the pelvis, the legs, the whole lower body can start to let go. And sometimes that release can show up as tears. Now, I've never cried in pigeon pose, but after my divorce, when I finally got back on my mat, I remember being in child's pose in my safe little cave, and I just started weeping. It wasn't sadness exactly. I think it was my body finally giving my body permission to let go of a lot of things. And since then, I've had other moments, whether it's in meditation or my practice, even sometimes when I'm teaching, when my emotions bubble up. Maybe that's a part of getting older, being less afraid to feel or show emotions, because when I was younger, I wasn't ready to release anything. I was still in that collecting stage and collecting experiences and responsibilities and expectations. But these days, I'm really learning, finally, the release of and the letting go, which we talk about so much in yoga practice. So I got curious, what is actually happening during a practice or anything when emotions come up, especially as applied to yoga. So part of it is that yoga just gives us this space to feel. And when we slow down, when we breathe deeply and tune in, we can tap into those layers that we've really been too busy to notice. And sometimes it just takes stillness and quiet for emotion to rise. But there's also this fascinating theory, and this is the physical side of this, and it has to do with our fascia. So fascia is that connective tissue. It surrounds and intertwines our entire body, our whole body. And it's the stretchy web-like layer that links everything: your muscles, your bones, your nerves, your blood vessels, even your organs. Everything talks to everything through fascia. And when you wake up in the morning, where you have that impulse to stretch because your fascia's kind of been just holding tight during your sleeping, and then you just want to stretch it out. I wanted to pop in and thank you for listening to the Youthful Older Yogi. I love bringing you great guests, education, and ways to stay youthful in mind and body. If you love the show and want to help me make it even better, please consider becoming a supporter. You get to choose how much and how often you give, and there's no commitment. And remember, I donate a portion of every dollar I receive to charity. For 2025, I've chosen United Nations World Food Program. Just click the support button in the show notes. And just as helpful is sharing the show with others. Thank you again so much for listening. And now let's get back to the podcast. So science has found that fascia is it's responsive and it reacts to physical and emotional stress. It's mostly made of collagen and it's about 70% water. So when we experience any type of trauma, whether that's a physical injury or an emotional pain, the fascia can actually become less hydrated. It thickens, it gets sticky, and loses some of its fluidity. And I can attest to this, after my hip surgery, that major trauma where they're slicing down the front of my thigh, so that those incision parts are still, they need to be massaged, and I massage them because it's all that scar tissue in the fascia and everything's getting sticky. There's been a trauma there, a slicing. So, and here's where this theory comes in. The theory is that emotions or tensions or trauma can become stuck in the tissues. And when we move in yoga, when we stretch, when we breathe and bring hydration back to that web, those areas, they start to loosen and rehydrate. You often hear teachers saying, we're going to get the synovial fluid going. We're going to move the joints to get them lubricated. Okay. And so these areas start to loosen and soften and rehydrate. The body softens, and sometimes the emotions that have been quietly held in those tissues are released. Again, this is a theory. It's not a proven fact, but to me, it makes sense. So when we allow the body to move and breathe, and it's not just the muscles letting go, it's our whole being saying, I'm ready to release this. And isn't that a gift for sure? And here's another part of it. And this is a big one actually for me and maybe for you. Many of us grew up in environments where emotions weren't easily welcomed. I know that's the type of environment I grew up in. We didn't talk about being sad or angry or scared. You bucked up and you kept going. And there wasn't a space for softness. There wasn't a space for tears. There wasn't even a space for conversation about it. And sometimes we don't even recognize that. I recognize that's how I was brought up. There's some good parts of that for sure. But I think being in that environment, a lot of that pressing things down and not expressing, however you need to express it, whether it's vocally, whether it's through action, whether it's through physical movement or meditation, it just wasn't available to me until I started my yoga practice. So I learned early to hold on to everything. Crying just wasn't part of the plan. But now, well, I cried so much, almost everything, a Hallmark commercial, a bird on my patio, sometimes a little gecko looking in my sliding glass door. They're so cute. I'm a crier now. And I've really made peace with that. And I don't try to hold it back anymore. And I don't apologize for it. I welcome it. It's taken me a long time to unlearn this old conditioning. And of course, yoga has helped me immensely with doing that, because yoga invites us to feel. It's a feeling practice. I always say it's a feeling, breathing practice. And we get to reconnect with parts of ourselves that were numb or ignored or pressed away, pushed back. We didn't want to look at it or feel it for sure. So when you come to your mat and you roll it out, you're asked to breathe deeply. You're asked to move with awareness and mindfulness. You're asked to pay attention. And that's a big deal and a big challenge if you've spent your whole life trying not to feel. But it's also a very healing practice. That's why I've often referred to my mat as Dr. Matt. She's my therapist, my witness, my safe space, and Dr. Matt never judges whether I'm crying or sighing or staring at the ceiling, wondering what's for dinner. It just says, okay, let's just feel this. So now let's talk about what happens when you're the teacher and you notice a student crying. So this has happened to me several times over the years. And I'll admit the first time it happened, I really, I kind of panicked. I didn't know what to do. Inside I was thinking, should I say something? Should I do something? Do I do nothing? It's one of those moments that teacher trainings, it didn't really prepare me for this. And there's a lot of things that the training won't prepare you. The teaching prepares you because you are doing it. And I think the first time, if I remember correctly, I just went up to the student and said, "Is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help?" And that was fine. It was kind, but I was uncertain. So now, after more experience, I approach it a little differently. Recently, I had a student who, after Shavasana, which it happens a lot of times for people in Shavasana, she was clearly emotional, not sobbing, but just quietly wiping away tears. And when she came up afterwards to me, she said, "Wow, I really didn't expect that to happen." And I just smiled and I said, "It happens to me all the time." So the simple acknowledgement made her feel safe, I'm hoping. And because students sometimes think yoga teachers are perfectly composed, serene beings, but let's be truthful here. I'm a yoga teacher because I need yoga, not because I've mastered it. And usually I'm pretty messy. Yeah. So my advice to you teachers out there is just really use your intuition and trust your intuition. You can usually tell from a student's body language whether they want to be approached or they prefer their privacy. And if you do check in, just keep it gentle and open-ended and, quietly aside. Maybe try something like, "Is there anything I can do to help you right now?" Or "How can I best support you?" Or "What does support look like for you right now?" I try to avoid questions like, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Those might feel, it might open up more than they're ready to share and, open up more than you're ready to take on, and can feel a little bit intrusive. So I stay away from "Are you okay?" and "What's wrong?" And if you sense that it's best not to approach or say anything, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes just acknowledging the whole group as a whole, saying something like, "Remember, yoga can bring up unexpected emotions, and that's part of the magic of the practice." It lets everyone feel safe and seen. So the goal is not to fix it. It's just to hold space for your students, because often that's what's needed, just holding space for them. So whether you're the one shedding the tears on your mat or you're the one holding space for someone else, remember, yoga is about connection. It's about feeling what's real and not pushing it away. Tears, the laughter, the sighs, the silence, the bitching, they're all signs of life moving through you. And that's yoga doing its quiet, powerful work. So just remember, if the tears come, just let them. You're safe, you're healing, and you're human. So if this episode resonates with you, I would love to hear from you. I say this every episode. Just please visit my website, shareyogawithmj.com, shareyogawithmj.com. And you can connect with me through an email there. Also, I'd like to remind you that registration for my Black Friday deals begins November 24th. I think this episode comes out right before that, the Saturday before that. And I have two programs that will start in January. One is
Meditation Made Easy for Beginners and Skeptics. And the other one is Yoga for Beginners. Okay, for true beginners. Each one is limited to 30 students, and we'll meet for 5 Saturdays. Just the 5 Saturdays in January, between 30 minutes for the meditation and an hour and change for the beginning series. So please go to my website. All the information is there. It's a wonderful way to start your New Year's, starting off with something really good that you're doing for yourself, to feel grounded, to feel strong, and to feel centered. And all the details are on my website. Once again, it's shareyogawithmj.com. While you're there, please sign up for my newsletter. I only send them out maybe sometimes twice a month. It might be more now because the Black Friday deals are coming out, but it's free. It's where I share updates, insights, and more ways to keep your practice playful and sustainable. So that's that for this episode. Thank you always for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, a thumbs up and a subscribe. It helps to get this episode out to others that might find it useful. So again, thank you so much for listening or watching. And until next time, keep sharing yoga. Namaste.
Thank you so much for listening. Now you can go to my show notes on YouTube or Buzzsprout and send me a voicemail or email. I'd love to hear what topics you'd like me to speak about, what your thoughts are on the episodes, and maybe I'll share your message on a future episode. Please subscribe to my website, shareyogawithmj.com, so you can receive my newsletters and be first to know about my retreats, workshops, courses, and freebies. If you navigate on social media, you can find me mostly on Facebook and a bit on Instagram at Mary Jane Waddell. That's Jane with a Y, Jayne. This podcast would not be possible without the help of my editor, Dan Jones from Cocoa Beach Productions. You can find Dan at cocoabeachweb.com. And of course, thanks to my generous guests who share their time, insights, and youthful wisdom. Remember, the Youthful Older Yogi podcast is presented solely for educational, inspirational, and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician or other qualified professionals. Okay, yogis, stay well, stay youthful, and keep sharing yoga.